What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be doing day 2, that is rounds 2 and 3 of this 2025 NFL mock draft. And this is actually a special episode because it is the first episode I'm recording after we hit 15,000 subscribers. Funnily enough, we also had 2,500 followers over on X. So thank you guys so much. I'm not going to take a long, laborious time here, but bottom line is, you guys have changed my life. You guys have given me a great trajectory to have some fun and be able to really explore my passion as a potential future. So thank you so much for that. I respond to every comment since October of 2021, and that's because I love talking to you guys so much. So don't be shy. Feel free to drop your comments down below. I'll do my best to talk to you guys in a timely manner. We're going to be at the Shrine Bowl tomorrow morning. We already were already there today. And my brain might be lagging a little bit, but we're going to have a great time while we do it. So kick back, relax. We're going to review the picks and the trades. And so let's get on into it. If you guys want to see the normal picks live, then it's going to be a lot more enjoyable if you guys, I'm going to let you guys read the normal picks. I don't need to go over that shit because we got 100 picks to talk about. And, what was it, like 70 or 68 of them we're going to have to pick. So you guys can use your eyes for the ones that are normal. I'll talk about the trades and the results. Vegas ended up getting a 3rd and a 5th round pick from the Panthers to move up for Mason Graham jumping the Jets. I got a little bit of pushback. For some reason, my Panthers fans all of a sudden were extremely enamored up until the last week of the year with Mason Graham. And for the price of a 3rd and a 5th round pick, I personally think it's a really good idea. You still have the opportunity to trade back as well in the 2nd round and be able to reacquire draft capital. You have 2 4th round picks, early 4th round picks, I might say. So I felt like it was a perfectly reasonable option to pair him with Derek Brown going forward and continue developing the defensive line. But regardless, Shedeur Sanders ended up slipping to 8th overall. I actually got to see him in person today. That was actually quite nutty. I did not know that he was going to be there. And Shiloh, we were all huddled around. And one of the things I don't like about being media is, I'm personally not one of those guys to stick a camera in someone's face and ask them a bunch of questions. I'm really there to just experience something and enjoy it, be able to talk to the players and just have a good time. That's honestly the blessing that you guys offered me as well. So thank you for allowing me to be able to experience something like that. But while everyone was huddled waiting for Shedeur Sanders, I ended up turning around and seeing this dude with sweatpants and a little bit of an afro, and I'm like, what the hell? And then it was Shedeur Sanders. I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I got to see him today, and there were 4 teams that were in the room he ended up going into, and that was the Packers, the Seahawks, it was the Packers, the Seahawks, another team, the Bears, and then the Cowboys. Seems like one of those teams is the one that might be more linked to the Sanders family. So, interesting note there. But that's a little insider information from my end that you guys might not have heard anytime else. So, there you go. You actually got something unique from the show outside of a unique opinion. But had a pretty good stretch of standard picks. And then we had the Seahawks trading, I believe it was 136 and 178, but some solid day 3 picks to jump the Atlanta, or to pair up with the Atlanta Falcons to jump the Arizona Cardinals. And it's like James Pierce, not necessarily a conventional pick for Seattle, but disarming your own in-division rival is something I love to do. So I'm probably going to do it to the Seahawks eventually as well, so do not worry. But why do I keep wanting to call them the Falcons? The Cardinals got screwed over in this situation, but still ended up getting a really solid piece. I did see some people a little bit scared about this being Isaiah Simmons 2.0. Jalen Walker is a really, really, really good linebacker. That's also a very solid edge rusher. So it's a little bit different than Simmons, who was pretty much really solid at everything. He was a freak athlete. Walker is known because he's actually really polished and a very high level player, not necessarily a crazy high potential athlete. But via that trade back, we ended up getting Michael Williams for the Falcons, with Ulbrich being in there. Probably going to be a 4-3 system. Michael Williams fits a lot better. And on top of that, I debated trading down again because you get someone like JT Tuimoloau and potentially a lot more draft capital. But I was a little bit worried that, hey, if you let Michael Williams slip one more spot, I do believe that you are now going to be giving the Buccaneers a super weapon potentially for them to use against you. I'd rather choose it wisely and be able to see and basically limit who I'm going to be able to face, and also weaponize my team while we're at it. We had the Pittsburgh Steelers trading back. I have this one fan who, this one subscriber who keeps popping back in, and He is not a huge fan of what I do for Pittsburgh. I get it. I respect it. But when I ended up getting the opportunity to get essentially a late second round pick, number 66 overall, early third, just to move down, I thought that this was great for Kansas City. Maybe you guys ended up thinking maybe we could have gotten 64. I could have done that. At the end of the day, not really going to change much because I don't see there being too much competition between those picks for what I would be going after. But Colts and Loveland was the move there. Kansas City jumped their own in-division rival, had that pick essentially for free from Snead. And so I thought that was the right opportunity for Kansas City to be able to strike a blow to, again, their in-division rival. But continuing on, we had a small set of trades right here. Houston ended up doing a quick trade with Baltimore, so Baltimore could jump the Rams and be able to take Calvin Banks. He ended up slipping because I don't think he's going to test well. He's a much slower athlete, so not going to be really someone who I'm overly high on, and I do think that he might be one of those guys who could fall because every year players fall, and I assume a player that might not be the best athlete might slip if they're an offensive lineman going against great athletes. But since the Rams were kind of put in a sticky situation, I had the Bills with pick number 130 moving up 4 spots and selecting Matthew Golden. And then via that trade back, still ended up getting the player I wanted for Houston, so we got some free picks there. I think it might have been a 5th and a 7th round pick, or it might have been a 6th and a 7th round pick. But regardless, super small draft capital to get the exact same player, leaving the Rams to select Azariah Thomas, and then the Steelers to be able to get their Cam Hayward replacement for the long run. And Walter Nolan was a big curveball that I ended up throwing there for myself because I'm a Steelers fan. But let's get into this. This is probably like my first video in a hot minute where I haven't been wearing a jersey, but I have a lot of them. They're really fun to wear. There's another one that I could have been wearing, but this sweatshirt was really comfortable, and I honestly kind of like wearing the all black fit. I got a blout fit on, like black shoes, black sweatpants, black jacket. Like, it's just a vibe. It's a vibe. So let's rock it though. Cleveland Browns at 33 overall. I absolutely am down for Jalen Milroe, but not at pick 33. We took Abdul Carter in the first round. I do think that Jalen Milroe, based on where we've seen project, air quotes, project quarterbacks go, a lot of them usually slip to the 3rd round, if not day 3, but we're not going to let him slip past 67. I'll just say it right now. But regardless, with Abdul Carter already taken, we have to look at pieces for this team, and Arman Membo could be a really good one. I do think if you want to go after a sneakier position, it would be that tackle spot. And if I'm going to be going after someone who I believe in as a strong offensive tackle going forward, I think it's going to be Donovan Jackson. We went to Ohio State before, but Donovan Jackson in half a year progressed unbelievably well. And he's still polishing up big time, but it's not like he's polishing up as if he's like super duper raw. He's just finally being able to test out mechanics in game that he should have been doing for a long time, in my opinion. Of course, Josh Simmons was the reason why he wasn't, but I was saying earlier in the year that Donovan Jackson, like preseason, like this dude could be a tackle. I labeled him as an offensive lineman because I was like, it's criminal not to see him as a tackle. And he ended up grading out as a top 70 player as a pure tackle right now. And that's incredible for being half a year in. That's not even evaluating potential. So potential-wise, I think he actually could be someone truly special. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the class by a very noticeable margin. My number 22 overall player on the board. Number 34 for the New York Giants. We ended up starting out the draft by taking Cam Ward. We got our quarterback in place and ended up explaining that in a lot of depth, and I really do like where I ended up leaving that off. But I think we need to get a corner 2. Trey Amos is someone who I'd love to take in the first round, someone I debated taking for the Steelers. I'm taking him here. 6'1", 190, physical, man coverage, being able to be at the catch point. That is exactly what you need. And so Trey Amos is going to be the selection there. At 35 for the Tennessee Titans, we're going to try to move back here, but our first pick was Travis Hunter. Based on the words of the GM, I do have it as a higher likelihood that they're going to go Travis Hunter over another pick. And then even today, when Shedeur and Cam were working out together at SMU of all places, I'm like, damn. We have a nice indoor practice facility. I know, we have like job fairs there. I've been on that field. It's awesome. But it's like, can we get like media passes for that? Like, that'd be kind of fun. But regardless of that, they were basically making jokes saying that, oh, I'm the generational one, yada, yada. But then they're like, yeah, but we all know who's going first. And I was like, oh, you mean Trav. So, I mean, I feel like it's relatively understandable Travis could be that true number 1 pick. And there are a lot of very good players on the board, but a position that is a little bit more barren than what I initially thought is going to be that pure tackle position, because I see a lot of potential interior offensive linemen here, but I'm looking at Ozzy Trapilo as the key right tackle that is available. Arman Membo is extremely valuable as well. I can see the Jaguars absolutely hopping on that train and being able to continue building their offensive line both inside and out. I'm also looking at the Bears here. I mean, the Bears, this is a key time for them to move up, but I wouldn't move up for Ozzy. He's a true right tackle. It's not right for the Bears to do. But at the same time, I'm looking at the Patriots here. They're looking for an offensive tackle. I mean, the Niners could get aggressive here, but the Niners kind of already got their own in Josh Connerly. You would end up kind of going a little bit too much overlap. And if we didn't go Josh Simmons, could have also talked about, talking about one of these guys here, but also the Jets. The Jets just don't have enough draft capital. But the bottom line is there's a lot of teams looking for tackle. Could try to see a small bidding market there. But I do think the Bears should be at least on the phone. And I actually really like this idea of the Bears moving up for Arman Membo and jumping the Jaguars for this primary reason. I think that Arman Membo, you don't need to upgrade the tackle spot right away. So I think Arman still needs to polish up overall as a tackle and needs a year at guard. So maybe it might be 2 years. Just he's going to be the heir apparent to Braxton Jones. And that's going to be awesome because you're going to have an immediate impact while also having somebody who is going to be a massive impact for the long run too. That's even more than what it is right now. So I personally really love that. I think this is a key opportunity to shift some picks as well. And so from 39 to 35, it is not much more than 148, if that. I mean, I don't think 140, the thing that I'm looking at right here for the Bears is, do we want to use this opportunity to reshift our picks with the Titans? Because the Titans also, it's in their best interest to be able to reshift their picks. So I think the best thing for the Bears is move 72 back to 101 and acquire some extra buffer pick for this range. I think 169 or 141 would be requisite for this. And again, it sucks going 39-72, but we also are completely rebolstering our pick core by adding another pick in this range. I personally think that's solid. You might be able to fleece that 6th-round pick there out of the Rams as well for the future. But again, I feel very comfortable with what I'm going to do with the Bears in terms of my vision. For the high-level offensive linemen that I'm about to acquire, I think this is going to be a massive win. I mean, deep down, I do want to go 118 as well and just drop this, but I just don't think that's in the Titans' interest. It could be in the Titans' interest. In all fairness, that actually could be. I think that's a fairer trade as well. I think that's a fairer trade. That's something that the Bears would probably do. We'll do it. The Titans also, again, you're getting that pick 72, a massive move up there, which you could, again, move back and rebolster those picks. And you can end up, again, working the board as you please. But the Bears move up and select Arman Membo to play guard for you in the short run. And again, train up to be that heir apparent at tackle. At 36, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, my dream pick for him, Arman Membo. 1st-round pick, though, Tetairoa McMillan. Right now, we could go Jahdae Barron and use him as either a defensive back, like a safety, or we could use him as a corner. But again, we'll have to see what the exact vision is for the corner core. Jahdae Barron's not the type of guy who I would personally believe as a great number 2 to Campbell. I would say Darian Porter is much closer to that, but I also would want to trade back in that situation. I just don't feel very comfortable doing that at this moment. I do love Gray Zabel to death. This dude's an absolute savage, but I want him to be with a good offensive line coach. So I don't necessarily trust the Jags to develop offensive line talent at the rate some other teams do. But let's see, for the Raiders, they already moved back and ended up getting their quarterback. What's a position that they could be targeting? Because that would entice certain teams to move up. Now, we could also talk about certain teams like the Jets at this point as it gets closer and closer to them to try to jump the Patriots for an offensive lineman. Because again, same division, want to disarm your in-division rivals. And taking a quick peek at their pick capital, it's not bad to be able to, again, reshift those picks. And I think this would only take 108 in retrospect. Like for a 4-spot move up, it actually is less than that. It would be 145 at most. Because if we think about it, 120 is a 2-spot move up. in the mid first. So it's going to be essentially a 4-spot move up in the late first. And I feel like it's a 6-spot move up in the early second. I feel like that's relatively fair. And for Jacksonville, it does kind of add a little extra weight there to where I feel like what I'm going for is a boundary corner, and I'm getting that same exact player here at 42. For me, I feel very comfortable with that. Again, the Jets are moving up to jump essentially the Patriots, because I don't know if the Raiders are going to be in the mood to move back again. But the Jets have now moved up, and they're going to be taking the best offensive tackle on the board. They took Ben Morrison in the first to fill in that corner core. They're going Ozzie Trapilo out of Boston College here, taking him right away from another team in Boston there in Foxborough. Actually, not in Boston, Massachusetts, in Foxborough there in the New England Patriots. Ozzie Trapilo is fantastic. He is, where's he at on my board? He's number 24. One of the highest floor offensive tackles in the entire draft. This dude's just been absolutely fantastic this year. Very well balanced. You guys can go check out my 88-minute tackle video where I broke down exactly why I love him so much. But again, you're jumping a team in the Patriots that could be looking to upgrade at that tackle spot, and you don't want to be that team pretty much taking sloppy seconds or even getting worse than that in terms of offensive linemen. You do have still a key position at right tackle to fill, because Olu should be the left tackle for the future. But I digress. 37 for the Las Vegas Raiders. We took Shedeur via a trade back. Again, we got an extra 3rd-round pick. Look at all those beauties. Gorgeous. And so there's a lot of routes that we can go here. I think Io Maynor, with his blocking ability and his just super high floor, makes too much sense at this point. Jaden Higgins could be your true one. Like, you're in a good spot, right? Pete Carroll, going to be the head coach. He might want his own running back as well. And so I honestly think Cam Scatterbo, if you want to move up with one of those 3rd-round picks, might just be a little bit more of a valuable option, because Cam has that, Marshawn Lynch-esque to him. He has that energy that I really, really love. So I don't feel like we need to force that here. What I do think we need to force is getting a legit, physical, nice boundary receiver, and he can run block as well. That's Io Maynor here. I mean, even in Stanford's inefficient-ass offense, he still performed unbelievably well. And so I'm going to be giving him the nod there to pair up with Shedeur Sanders. At number 38 for the New England Patriots, we kind of got sniped. We ended up getting 2 of the tackles that would have been really nice for him. Granted, they're right tackles, but, 2 of the legitimate considerable options taken at 35 and 36 respectively. We did go Will Johnson in the first. Now, I'm looking at a lot of really, really good players here. A lot of them. And the thing is, I'm still down to take offensive tackle here with Arianti Urzuri. He's one of those I'm one of the few guys who actually has faith in Urzuri. I think that he would be I think his grade is a 70 as an actual tackle, but it's like a 75 as a guard. You can end up using him both as a tackle and as a guard, depending on how long of a leash do you have for Urzuri to be able to make mistakes. Because you can give him experience right away at tackle, and then he's going to be better than what you have. So you're going to get an instant upgrade. And at 38 with 6'6", 330 pounds, I mean, this dude's a beast. And he's an extremely powerful blocker. He's very mobile. I think this is going to be a really good building piece. It just depends on the patience you have. And to be fair, I do have to say, Drake May did not have a great offensive line there at UNC. He might be able to have that long of a leash to be still effective while having Urzuri be a great developing offensive lineman. Looking at where I have Urzuri on my board, actually, I did not give Urzuri the grade of him at guard, did I? I think I did, because I ended up dropping it. So fun fact, I ended up dropping all my guard grades by 3. So he should be in this range, and I don't know why my eyeballs just are not working at the moment, but he should be somewhere in this range. Oh, he's 47. There we go. Son of a biscuit. We're going Urzuri here, because even though the tackles have been depleted, I still want my opportunity at getting someone special. And even with the fact that he has a rounded back, so some people do have some concerns with core strength and flexibility, I really did think his game overall was a far better, and he ended off his game versus Abdul Carter with an amazing lockdown rep. And, talk about a way to end it off. He still has great reps versus the best of the best in the draft. So 2 key players for the Patriots there. Number 39 for the Titans. Again, we did that massive shift up of picks there with the Bears, gave our 2 fourths to be able to essentially move up to the early 3rd round and end up moving a couple spots back here. Again, we could try to do it one more time just to again, reshift and be able to add an extra pick here and there. But we also have a lot of great options. Right now, Travis Hunter is our only pick. You could talk about the QBs at this point. I am not going to pull the trigger on them. As much as I love them, not going to pull the trigger on them. So I'm looking primarily at edge because I think that's the best value. And you guys are a team that I definitely could see looking at some good value. Same thing with wide receiver. You got Jaden Higgins here to play that role that you had DeAndre Hopkins playing. And, you also see this all the time with Nico Collins in your own division. This could be your T. Higgins as well. And to be fair, looking at the teams ahead of you, I do see that there is a threat, especially if the Bears want to use him in the slot. Jaden Higgins could be gone. I think there's a legit threat there. Same thing with, there is a legitimate threat to for him being gone to the Saints. I'd say to the Cowboys, absolutely. And so with all that being said, I think it's paramount this team continues building through weaponry. And you got Travis Hunter there to play a quasi receiver role, but also a defensive back role. I don't know what the vision is, but I also don't have the opinion of Travis Hunter the way that the standard man does, right? Like, I have a lot of love for Travis Hunter. I also have some skepticism for him. So I absolutely believe that Jaden Higgins should be a legitimate option at this point. Now, you got Jahdae Barron here. He could be an extremely intriguing option. Again, you got some good edge rushers here as well. But I really do feel like continuing to rework that receiving core is the best possible way to give Will Levis a best shot. But even if that fails, whatever quarterback you have is going to really love having, if Travis Hunter is going to play that Tyler Boyd role, which I think would work really well, pretty much Travis Hunter, Calvin Ridley, Jaden Higgins. That provides a very well-rounded approach that you'll probably not have to draft a wide receiver for a very, very long time, at least in the high rounds. And I like being able to solve a very key issue with really good value. And again, you've been tormented by Nico Collins in your own division. It's good to get your own variant of it. At number 40, we got the New Orleans Saints, and they started out the draft going Josh Simmons. This team's been linked heavily to Shamar Stewart based on, I guess the ghost of Dennis Allen, I should say. But at the same time, you guys do want to be able to take a shot on someone like Shamar Stewart. Like, he's somebody who needs a mentor like Cam Jordan for a year. And that's something that's perfect. This team has all that opportunity. Build through the trenches, get someone who can be interior, exterior, versatile. And you guys have somebody here with Shamar Stewart who, in my opinion, is better than Peyton Turner. He's better than Isaiah Foskey. And so don't be afraid to continue taking shots if the environment is right. Just because the other guys didn't work, it's not a 1-for-1. Yeah, it's a reason to give you a pause, but it's also a reason to kind of be introspective and understand why. It wasn't because they were project players, just because you heavily overdrafted them to a situation that I don't think they really were built to succeed in. But that's my point of view. And Shamar Stewart, this is probably one of the best spots for him. At 41 for the Chicago Bears, we traded up for Arman Membo to play guard long vision tackle for us. We got Ashton Genty at pick number 10. And so right here, we do have those 4th round picks. Remember, we have both those 4th round picks that we ended up doing a little swap-a-rooney there with Tennessee. And so we do have a little bit of a gap after this. I think this is a prime opportunity. There's a couple positions that we need to still address. That's defensive interior and edge rusher. I love Prince Umamielen because of that instant chemistry with Gervin Dexter. I don't see him being taken for at least a small period of time. So it is something where we could end up rolling the dice to see if it works with us moving back. But because you got Jahdae Barron here, and I do think that teams that are looking for a defensive back absolutely would adore getting Jahdae Barron. And one of those teams I actually could see moving up is the Colts here. Now, the Colts have the connection through formerly Flus, whatever that means. But, obviously, these teams have had conversations together. They've had some form of connections, whether it's going to be long-lasting or not. That's not the reason why I would say that a move would happen. However, I think that when you have teams like the Jaguars that are in your division that are needing defensive back pieces, both safety, slot, as I assume, well, Jerry and Jones are solid, but pretty much safety-based, I really like the idea of the Colts going after their best possible option. And then again, jumping a team in the Jaguars who probably would just be looking at best player available at that point. So the Colts, it's not going to be an expensive move up. And it's 4 spots. I think 152 would be requisite. And again, we're right now doing a great job with the Bears. We could go 115 and end up tossing in like 148 in this equation, but let's just keep it simple. Let's keep it easy. Maybe we toss in 235 to make it nicey for him, as the great himself, Chucky, likes to say. We'll do that. I think that's fair. I mean, you could toss in 197 to be cute, but I mean, at the same time, it's not going to affect the mock draft. Feel free to adjust it on your own. But the Colts are moving up, and rather than taking Malachi Starks in the first round, because we took Tyler Warren, we're taking Jahdae Barron here in the second to be a flexible piece. Yes, we could have talked about Xavier Watts, but I've taken Xavier Watts, Nick Ebenworry so many damn times that I want to test out Jahdae Barron as a free-floating safety who can cover using his great zone IQ, be able to fill in at corner as well. And I just love the flexibility that you do have with him and lose a defense. Like, he really can be a versatile piece across your entire defense and really play a very large role for the long run. At 42, though, for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we have moved back. We selected Tetro McMillan in the first round. And now, again, Liam Cohen, gonna be chilling with y'all. Could absolutely be saying, hey, we need to have some road graders here, and Wyatt Milam is a first-round blue chip level guard. And at 42, you just can't say no to that. I think that continuing to invest in the offense is the best way to help this team bounce back, and I'm going to be all here for it. At 43 for the San Francisco 49ers, they end up selecting Josh Connerly in the first round. I think edge rusher or any form of defensive line will be key here in the second. So, looking at who is the best available, I'm looking at Derek Harmon very heavily here. I think defensive interior pressure is going to be super key. I think edge rushers where you can start taking some shots on some developmental dudes based on the environment you have. I want the number one impact, and that's going to be Derek Harmon right there at 43. 44 for the Dallas Cowboys. Derek Harmon's my dream pick there in the second. Do not get that opportunity this time, but we ended up taking Omarion Hampton to most people's disagreement. They did not like it. I'm a big Omarion Hampton guy. As you guys can see, he's my number 6 player in the class, adjusted for positional value. I am a super freak for Omarion Hampton, but I do think this team definitely could use like a true identity. You could wait till now and go after more of the value running backs, but I don't believe in them remotely as much. And I'm not going to give you a player that I don't remotely believe in at the same level if I'm looking for a franchise-changing player. And I think that's what Omarion Hampton is. And I know that's not, standard, but it is something that I truly believe in. Now, you could try to go after someone like Gray Zabel to play interior offensive line and replace, whether it's Hoffman, but really the big guy to replace is Zach Martin. I think that would be, what you'd be looking for. But wide receiver-wise, I absolutely believe this is on the table. You can go right down the street, like 15 minutes from Arlington, and go after Sapien Williams here, 6'5", great after the catch. I mean, look at that contested catch number. I don't know why he drops the easy passes, but, he is certainly a really fun choice. I just don't see that being remotely as impactful as Jalen Royals. I think Jalen Royals is a super stud. I mean, 6 foot 205, one of the best guys after the catch. He's been rumored to run in the 4.3s, if not the 4.2s. So you're getting speed, you're getting after the catch ability, and you're getting somebody who was pretty much the backbone and pretty much everything that went right with Utah State. I mean, you add on to that he had a 53.3% contested catch rate this year and had over, I think, 60, if not almost 70% on his career coming into the year. This guy is also boundary possible. I mean, look at this. Out of 290 reps, only 64 were in the slot. I want CeeDee Lamb to stay there. I'm going to go after Jalen Royals to the Cowboys. Also, looked pretty damn good in a very similar color scheme. At number 45 for the Chicago Bears, we ended up moving back, ended up adding that extra pick, which again, we can end up trading back into the third round, which is exactly what I plan on doing. We've already addressed offensive line as well as running back. I think now the key is to go after that defense. And I think we have to go after that chemistry. Princely Umamielen has that relationship with Gervin Dexter. He's a very quality edge rusher. I'm going to call it a day. At number 46 for the Falcons, we went Michael Williams via a trade back in the first round. We absolutely still could be trying to maneuver and be able to manipulate to get some extra draft capital there in this day 2 to day 3 territory. I do see the guys who are willing to move, that teams will be willing to move up for. You got the defensive interiors like TJ Sanders, because The defensive tier class is great, but it also is relatively limited at the top based on, like, Omar is very limited in terms of the amount of reps he's had. TJ's awesome, but you do have a lot of different combinations of players, but not necessarily a lot of the same type. So if you're looking for a particular type of player, like a gap penetrator who might be sub 300, you're only going to be looking at TJ Sanders in this range. So there's really one defensive interior for you. It's not, 4 of them with Sanders, Norman Lott, Collins, Walker. Like, they all play relatively different roles. So again, there is something when you are looking at the Cardinals, who might get absolutely shafted again. Because I'm looking right now to move up with the Dolphins, which there's going to be a riot. No offensive line for them, but we will be getting offensive line, I promise. But that is a team that absolutely should be looking at defensive interior. And I think that's a team that I would want to move up and jump the Cardinals to be able to secure my guy. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's a small range trade, the Falcons and Falcons and the Dolphins, excuse me. And so when you do have this short range of a trade, I do think you could try to do 98 to 116, but realistically, I'm going to go 114 and I'm going to get 136 back. Well, I could be a little bit more frugal here and go like 157 and get 185 in return. I think that's fair because then the Falcons move up, rebolster their core. We can end up tossing 253 in there for funsies, but basically we end up reshifting the board and Miami ends up rebalancing theirs. Miami jumps the Cardinals to select their new piece, which they already got Malachi Starks, but being able to go and jump up and get Omar Norman Lott, who is going to absolutely turn heads at the Senior Bowl. 6'3", 315 pounds. He's actually, I think he was listed at 300. So if that's true, we might have to reconsider this, but currently 315, and he's a crazy athlete at that size. I think he would be a massive asset to this team. And again, we're going to address offensive line. Do not fret. This is a really solid offensive line class based on the tackles moving to guards. I do think this defensive tier class is kind of blown a little bit out of proportion. And so we're going to take advantage of it while we can. We got the short end of the stick in terms of fixing our defensive line, but I'm going to make a quick move for a player that just hasn't really gotten the love he deserves this year. But I just don't think teams are going to be super duper high on the pure guard class this year because of the guys who have potential at tackle. And that's why I could see him sliding to the mid-second. We're going to go Tyler Booker and just call it a day. Technically, I already hear the Dolphins fans getting mad about that. But again, it's a really good interior offensive line class. I do think that Tyler Booker would have been my selection after Omar Norman Lott for the Cardinals. So I feel like it was a solid move up for both teams. At 48, again, back with the Falcons here. And I think that, when you look at what this team really could use, you got Michael Williams in the first, a boundary corner too, like Darian Porter might be super up your radar because this guy's a former wide receiver. He might be a little bit older at 24, but he's also super new to the position. He's a really good special teamer, and his feet moves extremely smoothly because he's a wide receiver. I really love him to death. We're going to give him to you guys, Darian Porter, corner out of Iowa State. At 49 for the Cincinnati Bengals, this is kind of one of my dream picks here. We are going to be going after Xavier Watts to pair him back up with former Notre Dame coach there on your defense. So I'm a big fan of that one. So we got to get some Notre Dame guys for your defensive coordinator. Xavier Watts pairing up with Tyleik Williams. At number 50 for the Seattle Seahawks, we have James Pierce Jr. that we traded up for in the first. Love that one because, again, poor Cardinals. But here at this point, we need to address the offensive line. I think that's super duper critical. And the guy who I love for this team is Gray Zabel. I mean, it just feels like a Seahawks kind of pick. He's someone who's going to be great, 6'6", 305, built to play on the interior of the offensive line, super mobile, and even projected to center. I think I saw a couple of reps of him taking some center snaps, so I do love that for him. At number 51, we have the Buccaneers. They went after Jahad Campbell in the first round, and you could talk about a multitude of routes where you can go with this one. Jordan Burch would be an intriguing one to see him as a flexible defensive line piece, but at the same time, looking at other options where we can go, you could always look at the wide receiver route because you do have someone like Savion Williams who you can grow and mold into your future Mike Evans. And especially with the contested catch rate that Savion Williams has, could really be a massive win for your team. And so I also still think you might want to use Jahad Campbell as just a legitimate linebacker that blitzes. And if you want to do that, it's not a sin to double up at edge. You got some great players. You got Braden Swinson here, who's fantastic. You got Antoine Powell-Ryland, who will probably be slipping to that day 3 territory, but someone who I love is even in my top 32. But you also got Jordan Birch here. You really can't go wrong. And, I think that you just want to get a damn good dude in the building. And I'm going to go Jack Sawyer. I want someone who could complement Jahad Campbell for the long run. So you got Jahad Campbell there. You got Jack Sawyer. I think you kind of call it a day. I think corner is also a position we need to address, but I just did not see the value necessarily lining up as well. So again, I want to go best player available here. Don't force needs. I do like the corner group, but again, I just am not overly passionate about this group at the same rate that I am with the edges that are left. Broncos first round, Luther Burden. That's just such a solid move. Defensive back absolutely could be on the board here. You talk about Nick Eamon-Wari. I think that's a fantastic move for this team. But you also do have those running backs here like Scadabo, Johnson, Judkins. And so I think that when you look at Sean Payton, he's going to enjoy having someone who's going to be a little bit younger, more tread on the tires, who also someone who can carry a large workload. And that's very rare to find. And so Caleb Johnson, I do think, will be that higher volume weapon. Oh, but I can't say no to Harold Fannin at this point, can I? I mean, let's just go balls to the wall, man, and see what happens. Harold Fannin's fantastic. No pun intended. He is very, very close to tight end 1 for me. He's number 25 on my board. I'm not going to neglect him. And again, the defensive backs have not been fully regraded yet, so that's a reason why you're not seeing him up too high. But Harold Fannin's too good to pass on. As much as I want to disagree with it, he is fantastic and well worth that pick. For the Steelers, here at 53, first round pick was Walter Nolan. Big curveball there. Again, I talked about the corners for the Buccaneers, and I'm not going to force one here to my team either. I'm going to look at the guys who are available and either trade down or find the requisite value. And wide receiver-wise, I just don't trust Savion Williams to do something properly in an Arthur Smith offense. And it's not a dig at Savion. It's more so I'm not going to do that to him. I think we can all respect that. So looking at the other options that we could do, we could go after the QB for the long run. This is not a good spot for us. Oh, Elijah Arroyo's finally in this. Hallelujah. I love seeing that, by the way. One of my top tight ends in the class finally getting the love that he deserves. So it's good to see a little bit of a shift up here as well. But I digress. We're back with the Steelers. We took Walter Nolan the first. Corner, wide receiver are the 2 biggest positions to address. Again, looking at the corners here, I really want to wait till 66, even 85, because I just don't trust it. My next best corner is Jabbar Muhammad, but that's not one of the corners that I necessarily think we should be taking at 53. So looking at the other best options, I do think running back is very, very realistic. It was something I was hoping to wait on till 66. So is there a team that might trade up? Because I do think running back is going to be my next move. Of course, I also see running back being a primary target for the Chargers. I also see running back probably being at least in the realm of consideration there for the Commanders as well as the Chiefs. So I guess it's fair. We should probably try to go running back here to have an identity. Both of our running backs are up for contract, and I'm going to go after my favorite running back at the moment. I love Cam Scat. I can't say no to Scadabo. I just don't think with the fumbling issue, I don't know if Arthur Smith's going to like it. He does have a pretty high amount of fumbles for how amazing he is. We're going to go Quinshon Judkins, who is someone who's thrived in this colder climate and someone who I think could really be a great fit there, being basically that Najee role for us. At 54 for the Chargers, there's a lot of routes that we can go. We went Will Campbell in the first. Could go after Donovan Azirawaku at this point, who I absolutely adore, but I am going to go that running back route as well because, again, we want after offensive line. I think we need to complement it with a real quality running back, someone who's young, someone who's powerful, someone who's Big Ten. That's Caleb Johnson, and someone who could have a very large workload. At 55 for the Packers, we went Kenneth Grant in the first. I'm getting Jeff Hafley as guy. I know that wide receiver is such a position we want to target here, but it is just I don't see it as valuable. So we're going to be going Donovan Azirawaku here. I really like Azirawaku. He is tied there with Jordan Birch for me, so Jordan Birch will be at least in the consideration at the moment. At 56, we have the Bills, and we did already trade up with them once to select Matthew Golden to be able to be a nice piece for them on that receiving core. At this point, I actually want to look at TJ Sanders here. TJ Sanders is a punchy defensive interior that can add an extra level of pass rush that can end up complementing your guys for the long run. I think that just developing the defensive interior and also the edge core is the next two positions I really see as being able to be molded. But there is a player who I think is even better, and it's not Sebastian Castro, it's Nick Ebenwari. He's someone who could go in the first round, but people just don't believe in him at the rate that I do. So I'm going to have him just be best player available. We'll take him here to the Bills. We'll put my foot down and just say the slide stops here. Texans, we took Emeka Egbuka via trade back in the first. Defensive interior is a great spot to target, but the offensive interior is a much bigger need in my opinion. And you look at the guys who are available, I think the most likely option to go at this point, I love a Johnny Cornelius. I think he might be a better guard than Jonah is, but Jonah also has legit tackle upside. Marcus Bowe, friend of the show, also probably going to be the best guard out of the bunch. We'll go with Marcus Bowe. I think he can start at guard right away. Really good hand technique, just someone who's a really good athlete, loves contact, and you can just get yourself a dog and kind of call it from there. At 58 for the Panthers, we technically could have stayed put, ended up getting, James Pierce and getting TJ Sanders here. I would not have projected that to be possible, but we still have some great edge rushers that are available. We've been able to be blessed with Jordan Burch, who I think Jordan Burch would be fantastic, but Braden Swinson's the guy who I have at number 3 overall on my board. What really worries me is that he dropped out of the Shrine Bowl. I don't understand why. I don't see any information on it, but it is what it is. I don't understand it, but I think that could have him drop to this point. But I think Braden Swinson, if anybody complains about him being this pick at 58, they obviously haven't watched his tape. I don't know why Trev has him at 157. Just God honest, I have no clue why he wouldn't like him like that. Maybe there's some medicals we don't know about, and if there is, move him down. But I think Braden Swinson is an absolute stud, technical beast, and he just might not be the most athletic guy on planet Earth, but you pair him up with the defensive interior that you now have with Mason Graham, I think that solves a world of hurt. At 59 for the Ravens, you got Kelvin Banks in the first. At this point, you can go a lot of routes. Kyle Kennard's great, but actually someone who I think this team could really use and I'd be scared shitless to face as a Steelers fan, Jordan Burch. He is my newest evaluation, and this dude is so damn good. The reason he has a poor run stop rate is because the dude takes too long to look past the line of scrimmage to look for the ball carrier. I'd want him to be far more proactive and be able to basically guess where the play is going to be rather than freeze up and then try to find it and then react. I think that's gotten him out of position quite a few times, but as a pass rusher, this dude's one of the freakiest 290 plus guys I've ever seen. Like Shamar Stewart, Jordan Burch. Like we want to glaze Shamar Stewart. Jordan Burch is a better player. Like noticeably better. Shamar is just a better athlete that I've never seen an athlete like him. And so Jordan Burch is like a tier lower in terms of athleticism and a couple tiers higher in terms of in terms of polish. At number 60 for the Detroit Lions, we're in a good spot. We got Nick Scorton already. That's kind of the dream. We got TJ Sanders here, who I would not mind adding into that rotation at this point. I personally look at Jonas Savania as a potential center / guard / tackle guy to be able to groom him up and have him with Christian Mahogany kind of as a young, nice 1-2 punch duo. And, it's something that I just think is a very low risk move for y'all. So getting good offensive line talent there with Jonas Savania, who is still polishing up, is going to be a massive win. At 61, would have been my dream for the Commanders to select Jonas Savania to be able to develop him and see how everything goes. But we ended up in the first round going JT Tuimoloau, which I think is a great selection for this team. I think we could even potentially trade out of this spot given the fact that TJ Sanders is here, and I want to see a team take him before the Eagles. Now, I do think the Bills could be said team. I think the Bills could absolutely be said team, but I also don't want the Chiefs to be. I also might want a team that's not that good to be trading up for TJ Sanders. And looking at the teams that absolutely could use some defensive interior help, I could get aggressive with the Patriots right now. The Patriots, they've gone after offensive tackle. They've gone after, what do? They went after a corner and offensive tackle. I think they could absolutely be in the mood to make a little bit of a move up here. But also, another team that has some good draft capital is the Saints. Another team, honestly, could be the Raiders. They're going after best player available. They went after 2 offensive pieces, acquired an extra 3rd round pick. They're sitting pretty right now. And honestly, Washington could use the extra draft capital picks from them trying to move up. Of course, they also could be trying to move up to jump a team like the Seahawks, like the Chiefs, for trying to snag Cam Scatterbo. And so, I like that. I ended up actually finding a better connection. We're having the Raiders give the biggest middle finger possible to their in-division rival there in the Kansas City Chiefs. We're sending potentially pick 106 to get up here. Well, I think you guys would want quantity more than quality, if I'm just going to be so real right now. You could end up sending 73, and then we're having a little bit of a pick swap here. So then we could end up sending like 140 as part of this. Because I think, again, that kind of makes sense. You got 140, you might send 180 as well. We'll send 214. How about that? We'll keep it above 80% likelihood they'll be accepted. That way, we just end up reshifting the picks for the Commanders as well as the Raiders. And then the Commanders end up rebolstering their board a little bit there. So the Vegas Raiders have jumped up. Shedeur Sanders, Io Maynor. We're going full offense, baby. And we're going Cam Scatterbo. We're getting like an unbelievable addition there with our own little Marshawn Lynch to the group. And number 62 for the Buffalo Bills. We have now gone Matt Golden, Nick Eamon-Wari. We could absolutely go edge rusher here, but I also do think we could end up looking at that defensive interior group. To be fair, though, Kyle Kennard might be even better value than TJ Sanders. But TJ Sanders I have higher than Kyle Kennard. And I really like TJ Sanders. I really do. When he's healthy, not many players are as good as TJ Sanders in this draft. And the gap penetration's there. But I do think, you might want someone who's above 290. That flexibility does worry me a little bit. We're going to go Kyle Kennard here out of South Carolina and pair him back up with his former teammate there in Nick Eamon-Wari. At 63 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we went Mike Green in the first. And I'm going to actually do something a little bit different. I ended up going after multiple positions before, but one of them that I did not really think of enough is defensive interior, replacing Milton Williams with TJ Sanders. You can't expect Moro Ojomo to take 70% snap count, and then you also can't really expect Jordan Davis at this rate to have a projectable role that has that many snaps. So there's a lot of snaps there to be taken, and TJ Sanders is explosive. He's dynamic. I really like him paired up with Mike Green there as well. At number 64, you got the Chiefs, and they traded up for Colston Loveland. And at this point, we only traded one of those little picks right there to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're still sitting pretty. And you can get Alfred Collins, Deone Walker if you want to really target that defensive interior. But for me, I want to look at the corners. This is where I'm starting to look at those corners again. And looking at the ones that have the most physicality, the ones who have really good ball skills. I don't know why he's getting lost in the sauce, but I think Quincy Riley is about to make himself some money here in Mobile. So we're actually going to go after Quincy Riley, cornerback, Louisville. I technically could have went after Jamari Harris. I actually interviewed him today. I do not want to put out any bad juju on his name. I ended up dropping him a little bit because of this, but I'll say from my personal interactions with him, he's not necessarily been the most pleasant individual. And I would say he might be the least pleasant individual who I've ever been able to converse with. So not saying that he's a bad person or anything. I've had some very good luck with some very awesome people to come on the show. But it's safe to say after discussing it with him, we kind of both now mutually believe it's best for him not to come on the show after we agreed to it. So I don't think that it's going to be great for the interview process. He's a great talent. I hope the best for him. But Quincy Riley, though, he is somebody who's a track athlete, superstar, big hitter from last year who kind of had a little bit of a down year. And he would have been a first-round pick, in my opinion, if he had the same exact performance from the year before. Quincy Riley is going to be the pick there at 64. 65 for the New York Giants. In first round, we went Cam Ward. Second round, Trey Amos. Kind of the dream 1-2 punch right there. Here at 65, I don't know if we could ignore Xavier Restrepo because you have just that instant bond there with Cam Ward. But of course, Cam Ward only had him for a year. Like, do you really think that he can't bond with other wide receivers? I think it's a legitimate argument you can have. Now, is there anybody like Cam Williams that you can end up developing on your squad with your offensive line coach who's a really good one? I think so. I think it could have done it for the Eagles, but I think I wanted to go a different route than just continually selecting Cam Williams there in the second. Cam Williams is going to be a really good addition there for New York, though, for a long-term right tackle for them to finally coach up and train. Could use him as a guard in the short run, too. 66, Pittsburgh Steelers. We went Walter Nolan, Quinshon Judkins, and we could honestly start going after those corners at the moment. Defensive back, absolutely. Like, the value is, like, pretty damn spot on at the moment to try to look at one of those. David Igbinosun ended up returning today, so we love to see that for him. My next best cornerback is Jabbar Muhammad. Honestly, the fact that he can play zone, or he can play in the slot as well, he's physical. I personally think that he should be going, but we'll wait till pick 85 before we go after him. He might be a slot-only type of dude. Besides that, we still need wide receiver. And you got Isaiah Bond here. You got Savion Williams, Xavier Restrepo, Jack Besh, Tez Johnson. A good group of guys. I personally think Ricky White is the person who I don't understand why he's not getting this type of love. But he's worth a top 100 pick. He also is a freak on special teams. He had 4 punt blocks this year. That alone should get you drafted on day 2. Let alone the fact that you are a former 1,500-yard receiver this year with multiple quarterback changes. If I'm not saying multiple, but he at least had a full quarterback change in the middle of the year. He had over 1,000 yards. This guy's a really talented player. I don't understand why there is this negative outlook towards him. I'm going to plant my flag in the ground and go Ricky White, UNLV, who I comped to Mini Marvin Harrison, coming into the year. At 67 for the Browns, we kind of telegraphed this move from a long ways away. We went Abdul Carter, Donovan Jackson in the first and second. We're going Jalen Milroe here in the third to pair up with their new offensive coordinator there, who has a great connection with Jalen Milroe. At 68, we have the Washington Commanders, and we have JT Tuimoloau selected. This was that trade back so that Cam Scatterbo could go to Pete Carroll. And so, we missed out on someone like Ricky White if we wanted to add some firepower. That kind of sucks. We also missed out on Cam Williams to an in-division rival. That also sucks. But at the same time, we do still have a lot of really good offensive line talent in this class that I don't think if you want to develop a player, you need to get too scared and over-invest. I do think getting a weapon at this point is super duper key. And Savion Williams would be kind of ludicrous in terms of the after the catch ability and the contested catch ability with the way that Jaden can kind of place balls wherever he wants. But I also think Xavier Restrepo would be able to have the largest target share in this entire group. And that's pretty damn awesome. The dark horse is Isaiah Bond. Because even if he's not healthy, you guys are doing a great job maximizing talent. And Isaiah Bond came out for a reason. He could have went back to school for an extra year. He could have transferred and ended up having another really solid year. But people know how good Isaiah Bond is. He was a top 20 player in everybody's board at the start of the year. A couple games in, he was still. So injuries really hampered him. I'm going to roll the dice on it and go Isaiah Bond there at 68. 69 for the New England Patriots. We went Will Johnson, Ariante Ursary. We need to help out the offense a little bit more. And so I think at this point, you can look at Trey Harris, but he doesn't have great athleticism. He does have an injury history. But Savion Williams brings that contested catch ability that this offense doesn't really have. And I actually really like that. I think it's a good opportunity to at this point. We could look at the running back spot as well. But I'm going to start getting a little bit more worried about the wide receiver group in terms of guys like Savion Williams over the running back group by pick 77. At pick 70, we have the Jaguars. We went T-Mac as well as Wyatt Milam. We need to focus on some extra physicality at corner now. Got to see Zy Alexander in person today. That was pretty cool. He was on his phone the whole time, but, whoop-de-doo. I sound like a boomer, don't I? Max Harrison's the guy I'm going to look at. He was banged up all year, but he's physical when healthy. He's a really good man corner with really good athleticism overall. I think that he has the highest ceiling that is untapped, and this is going to be a good spot for him to learn how to use physicality better from Tyson Campbell. In the third round, I'm rolling the dice on that all day. 71 for the New Orleans Saints. We've gone Josh Simmons, Shamar Stewart. Kind of a really nice 1-2 punch there. Looking at the wide receivers that I would like on this team, Trey Harris might be the dude, but again, I have my respective issues in terms of health. I do think LeJontay Wester is somebody who I want to start including in these, but Ja'Cory Brooks with 6'3", 195, we'll see what the vision is for the offense, but he does complement Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed pretty damn well. I mean, look at him this year. 70% contested catch rate. He's a top 50 guy for me, by the way. I don't know why everybody ranks him this low. It is what it is. But we're going to go Ja'Cory Brooks there at 71. I think this guy is an absolute stud. He can fly. We could have gone tight end, but dude, this guy, it's hard to miss out on him. Titans, we went Jaden Higgins, Travis Hunter. Really nice 1-2 punch. Really nice 1-2 punch. And at this point, we're looking at the edges too. You got Kyman. I got hiccups. I got Kyman Rucker. You got Antoine Powell-Ryland, Tyler Barron. I mean, like, what a group, right? Landon Jackson too. Like Jared Ivey, you can count him in. Like, there is a really good group of edge rushers here to where it's kind of hard to say no to them. But again, we do have that bit of a gap here until 141 because we did this trade with the Bears. But I do kind of want to rebalance it out. I think it's fair to, want to move a little bit around and then see where we can kind of land up. But looking at teams that could try to move up for someone like Xavier Restrepo, because I'm looking at the wide receivers. And you got Tez Johnson here, who's nifty, he's dynamic, and he's explosive. Like, I do think that there should be a team trying to move up for him. And to be fair, I mean, there's not many teams that are looking for the exact build of Tez Johnson at 160, 165 in like a big burner. He's a fun player to watch, though, like a really, really good player. He's just 165, and it's coming off a not so optimistic time of year for guys like that after what we saw with Tank Dell. So I feel like that's kind of off the table in terms of being legitimately worth moving up for. Offensive tackle wise, I think we're starting to get to the territory where we start looking at Johnny Cornelius and Jack Nelson as legitimate options. And I think Jack Nelson's a very good player. I think he's a fringe starting tackle in the NFL. And I think if the Titans are sitting here at 72, I think it is almost a fireable offense to ignore offensive line. And I think Jack Nelson, again, very underrated, literally 8 pressures on the year, and he has a lot of untapped potential. I think he could be a lot better than Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, and I would trust him to potentially go over and take that right tackle spot. So we're going to go Jack Nelson there, now former left tackle out of Wisconsin. At 73 for the Commanders, probably would have been my move there, would have been Jack Nelson. But we've gone after Bond and Tuamalau. We're in a good spot. And so we ended up having some extra firepower. We ended up having some good defensive foundation. We could look at the corner group right here and go after someone who's extremely high ceiling. Or we could even get pretty much another version of Mikey Sainristil and Jabbar Muhammad. That would have been entertaining. But I also think we could try to start developing the next level of linebackers like Carson Schwezinger, who is a really good, very athletic, very high potential player. That is certainly something that's on my list. But I mean, it's an interesting spot. I do think the running backs at this point could be worth it. If you're looking at someone like Travion Henderson, the value of a player who is so good at home run hitting could be really, really valuable to your offense. So we're going to go Trey Henderson here. I think that you could really get some out of him. I keep saying the word really. Take a shot every time I do that. But, I mean, it is true. We're getting excellent value at 73 with Trey Henderson, which, technically speaking, I mean, the Bears were supposed to be around this pick. It was kind of my vision to go Quinshon Judkins as well as Trey Henderson with the Bears. But 74 with the Raiders, we jumped up to select Cam Scatabo. We moved back to select Shedeur Sanders, and we have Io Maynor. So at this point, we need to focus a little bit on the defense. I think that's a little bit fair. And looking at the guys who I would like a lot, we could go back to Cal, speaking of Marshawn, and go Noel Williams, who he also is an extremely athletic, high interception kind of guy. Really, really, really good there. But I also just really like Jabbar Muhammad. He was a really fun interview today. I didn't end up actually really asking any questions. I more so just sat there and watched other people just berate this poor guy. But he handled it with class. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but I really do comp him to, and again, it's a much lighter version. So it's basically a lighter version of Andrew Phillips. And where's he at on my board? Because this is an updated grade for him. He's number 34. I think that value is incredible, and you could flip him around anywhere, but the aggressiveness works so well with DeCamerion Richardson for the future, in my opinion, when you have that vision for him. Jacorian Bennett has not been super duper healthy, so I just think it's a really, really good value. At 75 for the Niners, we went Derek Harmon, Josh Connerly. Too bad that we do not have Jordan Birch on the board to have an Oregon trio, but I do think at this point, the value of Landon Jackson is incredible. Kyman Rucker, Tyler Barron. But Landon Jackson is just the more likely option. I'm going to go with him for the Niners. 280 pounds, an absolute beast. Number 76 for the Dallas Cowboys, you got Maureen Hampton, Jalen Royals, and that's a good group. That's a good group right there. You fix the offense primarily, and so at this point, I do want to get some space eating done for the Dallas Cowboys, and I know that you guys are willing to take some shots on some potential. Deion Walker is like 6'7". He is like 99th or 100th percentile in the majority of measurables, or at least 85th percentile and above, including hand and arm length. He's going to be a mismatch freak, and so whoever gets to develop him, fingers crossed. I think you guys, if I'm not mistaken, I think you guys might be bringing on Flus. If you do that, I think Deion Walker would be a really, really good addition. Patriots have gone Savion Williams, Ursery, and Will Johnson. I think it's time to look at that edge room because, we focus on a lot of good spots, but I do think we need to continue getting more upgraded in that edge category. And Tyler Barron, Antoine Powell-Ryland, Josiah Stewart, all good players. We could look at defensive interior one last time with Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins is a really high floor player with the unknown health questions. I do think Vrabel might actually really like having some stability there. Also screwing over the Cardinals. Oh my God. I don't do this on purpose. I swear to God. The poor Cardinals at 78. They could just get sniped before every damn time. Oh, brother. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. But, it's all out of love. Y'all know that. But, yeah, we so far have gone after Booker and Walker. Booker slipping was pretty ridiculous. You guys don't even see it. He's number 11 on my board. I think he's just super duper solid. But people don't believe in him the way that I do, unfortunately. But regardless, we could look at another defensive lineman at this point. Defensive interior still is on the board. I really like Darius Alexander. I got to actually interview CJ West one-on-one. I have an audio recording of that. If you guys do want to hear it, that'd be kind of, you guys might get some kick out of that. Jordan Phillips is a fun one, though. He's been getting a lot of steam, and he's redshirt sophomore, so super young, but he's really good nose tackle. That's going to be something that I might want to do at end of the third round. I might want to just go after like a similar of a best player available. We've already addressed that guard spot, but I might want to try to invest in that offensive tackle. We really have we've screwed the pooch in terms of the quantity of guys that we've taken, haven't we? This is not a good spot. I'm just going to be real. I'm going to trade out. That's what Monty does. He gets the best value. He's not going to reach for players who are ass. And so I'm looking at Elijah Arroyo here being a real solid tight end as well. And I could see a team like the Seahawks being very interested in this, but I also would not want them to get it. So I don't see any other team before I'm really looking at Elijah Arroyo positively. So I'd be calling up teams like the Broncos being like, hey, Denver. Actually, I lied. Denver already picked up a tight end. If they didn't, I'd be saying Denver. Wakey. This is going to be a good time for you. But I'm actually going to call up the Chargers and be like, hey, I'm willing to give this to you for a discount. Like, I'd personally take a discount right now because, I really do not want Elijah Arroyo in my division because this dude is going to be running some crazy numbers, and he's a really good fit for Seattle. Like, a really good fit. Not the Denver Broncos, dumbass. It's going to be the Los Angeles Chargers. And look how many picks they have. They have enough picks. They have enough. They got Caleb Johnson as well as Will Campbell. So I know they need to fix the defensive side as well. But at the same time, my goal for the Cardinals is, hey, please move up. Like, please. And plus, they have so many gaps that I'd be so happy with like a 181 and then maybe a 210. Like, I'd be happy with that. You can adjust it as you like, but that just gives enough fluff, enough cushion. And so we're going to go Elijah Arroyo here, who is a freak. He played every single down too. Yeah, he's not going to be the contested catch dude. You saw that number, but he is a vertical threat. And that just adds another pass catcher to your group. And I really like that. He's a tenacious blocker, even at 245. He is a very fun player to watch. At number 79 for the Raiders, really good group. Jabbar Muhammad, Cam Scatterbo, Io Maynor, and Shedeur Sanders. Again, really, really good group. I could see an upgrade in the linebacking core at this point, allowing Pete to kind of have free reign looking at the linebackers and going after the one with the most potential here. And former Oaks Christian Lion, And UCLA Bruin, Carson Schwezinger. I'm going to take the shot on him. He's a freak athlete. I've seen the clips. Went to my high school, kind of crazy, but never got the chance to meet the guy. I wasn't the most popular kid in high school. Surprise. But, yeah, it was just interesting. I was looking up like some pictures for him for a thumbnail, and I ended up seeing people that I knew who ended up following him. I'm like, no shit. So it was actually really cool to see that we went to the same high school. But number 80 for the Colts, Tyler Warren, Jahdae Barron, 2 killer picks. I think that you guys are in a very good spot. Right now, I want to take the best player available, and I think that would be an edge or a defensive interior. And the edge value, I think, is a lot better. And Tyler Barron is a technician. I mean, look at that. He's statistically off the charts. And he's 260 pounds, can kick to the interior as well because they used him a lot at that role in Miami. I think it's just a very high floor pick to add to a very solid draft. 81 for the Bengals went Tyleek and Xavier. Killing it. Love it. And so I think we need to go into your offensive line. You got Tate Ratledge here. The value is perfect for him. You could also, honestly, what I'm actually going to do is throw a big curveball here. I'm going to go with Johnny Cornelius. I think he's a starting guard in the NFL who has tackle versatility. That's the type of guy who I want on my squad. Super high floor. Just can't really he has some issues from wide 9, which I don't really think he's going to deal with in the NFL. At number 82 for the Seahawks, they've gone Grace Zabel and James Pierce. A good group of players right there. And now I'm looking at defensive back to potentially get your guy. And Kevin Winston is like just perfect to develop on this team. I just think it's great. Now, you could also look for a wide receiver like Tez Johnson to kind of be your Tyler Lockett replacement for the long run. I could see it. I could see it, but I'm going to throw Dante Thornton into this, by the way. Not for this pick, but this dude is an absolute savage and probably could go at the end of day 2. LeJounte Wester would be kind of fun. But he is pretty much a slot only guy. He would be in JSN's role. But I mean, LeJounte Wester, I'm trying to find a way to fit this guy in here because I really, really like him. But regardless, we've already gone after our edge. We've already gone after interior. Wide receiver just doesn't seem like great value for guys. I mean, you could stick Xavier on the boundary. Not a great move, in my opinion. So I'm going to go after the best player available. And for me at this moment, that might be Kevin Winston given the development curve. Lathan Ransom, Makuba, those are guys who I might hold to an even higher degree. So, you know what? I'm going to stick to my guy. I like Lathan Ransom here because he's also a thumper. And that's someone you could use as a quasi safety or quasi linebacker as well. You just want to continue getting really reliable weapons. And as long as Lathan stays healthy, which he did this past year, he's going to be a really good pick. Buccaneers, we went after a linebacker and an edge rusher for you guys already. We're going to go and get the Holy Trinity on the defense, which is a corner here. And looking at the ones who are available, I don't know why Kobe Bryant's getting so much hate, but I'm going to go back to my board and look at for my next best corner. Jason Marshall's awesome because he has some good zone IQ. I think he's still developing as a press corner, so I'm not going to necessarily select him here. Zy Alexander is someone who could be a really flexible defensive back piece. But I really like Kobe Bryant. I'm looking for the next best actual corner. Rod Moore ended up returning. I need to send him back, and I need to send Keon Saab back. So I haven't updated the defensive backs, obviously. So we're like, you guys are seeing a little bit more than you guys normally do. I'm looking for my next corners. Ricardo Holman did as well. Actually, I think this is the prime opportunity to go after Zy Alexander. I like that. Jacob Parrish, though. Oh, I love Jacob Parrish. I'm going to go Zy Alexander, though. LSU, 6'4", ball hawk, flexible defensive back. I think that's just really good value. You can't complain about that. Really good player. 84 for the Broncos. We've gone after Burden and Fannin. Oh, I still want to go Tez. I do, but you can't do that. Can you? We could, but I do think Kevin Winston is just so much better value. And I love Tez. And again, you got that brotherhood aspect with him and Bo. Sometimes you got to go into those storylines, man. I mean, when your quarterback has a connection like he does to Tez, they're pretty much like brothers. I'm going to pull the trigger on it. We're going 2 wide receivers and a tight end. We're just saying, fuck it, revamp the whole entire receiving core. I know they need a running back, but again, you can't let that pass. There's a certain point where you have to do what's best for your chemistry in the locker room, and having that brotherly love there is super key. Steelers, Walter Nolan, Quinshon, and Ricky. We're going to go corner here. And Denzel Burke at this point is unbelievable value. Again, Kobe Bryant, someone who I really, really like, but I do have my concerns over. It does suck because probably my next favorite actual defensive back is Jordan Aladakun, and he's Bowling Green, and I think he's someone who could play on the boundary, but he is someone who will probably be kicked into the slot, which, to be fair, the majority of these players I do have that issue with as well. Actually, Jason Marshall won't be taken this high. That's not realistic at all. So, man, I love Jacob Parrish. I love Jacob Parrish to death, but I'm not going to select him. Not going to select him. I can't do that. Man, bollocks. You know what? Denzel Burke is perfectly worth this one. He's had a resurgence since that horrific game. I'm going to trust him. He's someone who bounced back, and I love players who bounce back. Number 86 for the Arizona Cardinals, Jalen Walker, Tyler Booker, the selections there. I do think that, we've kind of solved a majority of the issues that I'm very concerned about. You could try to train up Emory Jones to be a tackle, but I do feel like that is a little bit of too much cross-training right there. I'm just going to be honest, I'm not a fan of this draft for the Cardinals. And I'm actually going to just get someone who's reliable. I'm going to get Xavier Restrepo and just get somebody who adds a little bit of comfortability there in that offense. Number 87 for the Packers, we went Kenneth Grant, Donovan Azarowaku. We're going to go after a playmaker, but we're actually going to trade back in order to get him. That playmaker is Dante Thornton Jr., and he's 6'5", he's 214, he's going to be running the 4.3s. This dude is an absolute stud. Just doesn't get targeted enough. And it's just like, if you actually watch Tennessee, this dude's an absolute stud. Like a legit star. So we're going to be giving that to them. But we're not going to do it at 87 necessarily. Let's see if there's somebody who can be moved up for it. I'm looking right now, actually. Kevin Winston just caught my eye. And you got the Jaguars in... people hate how I say Jaguars. Like Jaguars, like I don't know what you want me to do, but Jacksonville would be a great location for it. I could see the Texans trying to get a little antsy and jump up here. Are there any other teams trying to look for a safety? We could try to just actually offensive line wise, we could get kind of gutsy and move up for Tate Ratledge. I like that. Miami Dolphins. Yeah, we have enough picks as well. Personally, if I'm the Green Bay Packers, I'm perfectly happy with 151 for this trade because I think it accomplishes what I'm looking for. Well, it's 11 spots. I'll go 134. So we'll go 134 for this. Miami Dolphins, I know you guys want more picks, but Tate Ratledge is available, and we end up selecting him. So you got Tate Ratledge, you ended up getting Omar Norman-Lott, and you ended up getting Malachi Starks. 3 massive starters that can end up making a big impact. Jacksonville Jaguars, though, we're going to go Kevin Winston here. Tetaroa, Milam, Hairston, Winston, call it a day. Texans, we gone Emeka Buka, Marcus Bowe, and you could even go after another receiver at this point. I'm not going to do it, but I also might be willing to go after Jared Wilson, arguably the best center in the entire class, but I also could go Emory Jones, who is another tackle who is going to be a feisty interior offensive lineman. I'll go actually after the center route because I wasn't a big fan of Juice Scruggs when you drafted him. We're going to go after, essentially back-to-back interior offensive lineman out of Georgia. 90 for the Los Angeles Rams. We went Azariah Thomas there in the first round. We got our cornerback locked and loaded. Tight end-wise, we're doing such a good job. I'm going to go Mason Taylor here out of LSU. He's a quality receiver. He's a playmaker. Versus Texas A&M, do not watch that game because it's kind of scary. But outside of that game, he's phenomenal. Ravens, Banks, Birch. Love it. You kind of address 2 of the biggest issues that you are probably going to be looking at. And so at this point, I might try to look at Jack Besh as a reliable weapon here. Not the flashiest guy on planet Earth, 6'2", 215, and just reliable. Looks good in purple as well. I'm going to take him to the squad and just give some more reliability to Lamar. 92 for the Jets. We got Ben Morrison, Ozzie Trapilo. We are going to be actually going after a quarterback here because I think the teams now need to start looking at that QB spot. And for the Jets, I think if Aaron Glenn's going to try to make it happen again, it's going to essentially be Jackson Dart or Will Howard. And I think Will Howard's closer to Jared Goff and provides a solid foundation compared to more of the playmaker in Jackson Dart. At 93, we got the New Orleans Saints. And New Orleans Saints, we've gone Josh Simmons, Shamar Stewart, and Ja'Cory Brooks. I like how that ended up coming out. We're going to be going after tight end here. And I love Jake Brenningstool, Luke Lachey, all these guys, but I do think Gunnar Helm is the most likely to go next. He's good after the catch. He's a solid enough blocker. He's more of a gadget guy than anything, but he's a really solid player. We're going to go Gunnar Helm there at 93. At 94 for the Cleveland Browns, we got Carter, Jackson, and Milroe. I love that for y'all. We need to continue bolstering the run game. And with Devin Neal on the board, this is an every down starter, key to have on your team. And so we're going to go Devin Neal there and continue making this team have an identity through the run. Eagles at 95, Mike Green, TJ Sanders. Talk about a nice 1-2 punch. We're going to be going Emory Jones here and see if he can have some magic there at guard. No. We're going to Anthony Belton. He has a little bit of a spunk to him. Got kicked out of the game versus Clemson, but he's a starting quality guard off the bat at 336 pounds. But he also is someone who I think needs to have some coaching, and he could be a really, really good tackle in the long. Very, very good player. Just needs to refine his maturity there. At 96 with Kansas City, we've gone Loveland and Riley. I think at this point, we got to go after defensive interior. Quincy Riley would have been long gone, by the way, so FYI. We're going to go Darius Alexander, one of the highest ceiling defensive interiors in the class. Just doesn't get a ton of respect because he went to Toledo. I can see that totally changing very soon when he ends up going to the Senior Bowl. Vikings, we went Siobhan Ravel in the first. I'm thinking Dylan Sampson would be the most likely pick at this point. I love Jordan James to death. He's one of my top players, but I do think people love Dylan Sampson to a notable degree that I do not. And so we're going to go after Dylan Sampson because it is very realistic. At number 98 for the Green Bay Packers, this is where we're taking a big stance. I'm going to be going after Dante Thornton Jr. here to basically play the Christian Watson role, 6'5", 214, and a burner. Big fan of his game overall. 99 for the San Francisco 49ers, we got Landon Jackson, Derek Harmon, Josh Connerly. I'm going to trade out of this pick because I just don't really see the return on investment of another player at this point. I think a couple quarterbacks need to go, one or two. And there's actually another player who I really want to trade up with another team for that's looking more for a gadget weapon in the slot, and that's the Chicago Bears. It's a super small range trade, so I think 235 would be requisite. It'll be 235 and you actually get back 256. I actually quite like that a lot. Could go 152 and get 187 and 256 back, but you guys can adjust that as much as you want. The Bears are moving up. They end up selecting Genty, Membu, Umami Ellen. And the player who I want is LeJonte Wester. I don't see any more defensive interiors that I'd like at this point. LeJonte Wester is an absolute stud. He's just a little bit on the smaller side. I got to see him today. He doesn't look 167. He does look like he's about 170, 175. And he's going to be great for the slot. He's elusive. He's honestly just one of the better receivers that gets no respect. Minus all the DBs, even with all the DBs, he's number 86 overall on my board. So we're going to go LeJonte Wester for my boy Keegs. And this is the team I told him to root for. That's funny. I did not plan that out at all. And then at number 100, we got the Los Angeles Rams, Azariah Thomas, Mason Taylor. And for all of you Jackson Dart fans, there you go. Jackson Dart goes to be the heir apparent there in LA. And I think that's a great location for him to go. That's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. See you on the far side. Peace.